Good morning, good morning. Who's ready to start this day? Are you ready to start this day? Good morning, friends. How are you this fabulous day? Thank you for taking a moment to just stop by here, say hi, check in, connect. If this is your first time coming across this broadcast, my name is Renee Harden. On my Facebook page and on my YouTube channel. And so for trade, I am an editor, a content writer, a writing coach. I help authors who are getting their stories shaped up to submit to a publisher or an agent, or perhaps self-publish their own work. Clean it up and make it the best possible version that it can be before they send it out there, right? So that's what I do. But on this broadcast, every Saturday morning, I sit down and I share from the editor's desk. We talk about stories that are in the headlines. We talk about stories that are going on in our life. We talk about Milo wanting to come. Yeah, come on. If you're going to come in, you may join the broadcast. Yes, there he is. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to be talking about writing a book. Come on, you're going to come up here. We're going to talk about publishing your work. You know, what I do for a living, how I help people get their work ready to publish in that final form. Right, Milo? Are you going to come up here and join us? So I've been sharing in a series this month the topic, So You Want to Write a Book. Good morning. Good to see everybody. I'm going to say hi to the people that are watching live as the comments roll in. Good morning. Good morning, Savannah. Thanks for being here, sweetie. Hello, Miss Sherry. How you doing up there? Good to see you. Good to see you. So love to all the people that are watching this live. Thank you so much for being here. So here's what I'm going to talk about. There's a lot of questions and a lot out there about how to publish a book. I want to publish a book. I want to write a book. I'm interested in writing a book. And there are so many options out there now for authors to get work created, produced, published, right? Authors are also known as creators, and we talk about creators when we think of Instagram and doing stories and reels and TikTok, right? People are creating art. They are creating a catalog of work. So one, you want to be able to protect that work. You know, if you're really good at what you do, you want to protect the copyright on that book, on that work, right? And then you want to think of ways to get it out there and publish it. Now, of course, all the social media apps are great ways for people to put their, you know, just for fun, put stuff out there. But what I see is so much creativity and talent being freely shared, and that's great. And then there is some part of your talent that you might want to publish as a special thing, right? And you want to get it out there to the people who follow you or who you're connected to, or maybe you have a platform in your field of work that gives you an audience automatically. So we're going to be talking about the difference between, when it comes to publishing books, the difference between traditionally publishing and then self-publishing. There's a lot out there about self-publishing. You probably have friends who have self-published their books. We should do a book about Milo, right? Being on the show. So when, you know, which route do you want to take? Would you like to be traditionally published? Do you even understand what that process is? Okay, because there's a lot of difference between what traditional publishing was 15 to 20 years ago and then publishing today. With the advance of digital technology, there are so many options now out there to publish it without front loading a lot of cost. Okay. So I'm going to go through a little bit today about the difference between traditional and self-publishing, because I think this will help a lot of you who are thinking about writing a book, or you want to write a book and you want to know which route to do. Okay. So I'm going to start with traditional publishing first. So traditional publishing means that you're going to submit to either one of the big five imprints, or you're going to approach a subsidiary within that imprint so that you can be published with their name and their credentials. So let me explain a little bit about what that process looks like. The first thing you need to do is you need to find a literary agent. You need to find someone who has the connections and will be able to shop this book to the publishers and secure the best deal for you. Okay. So you've got to find an agent. So the first thing is have your manuscript. Do you have your manuscript ready? Is it complete? Does it need editing? That's where I come in and I help get that prepared. We go through rounds of edits. We get it formatted. We have it proofread to make sure that it is ready for presentation to an agent, because then the agent's going to shop that to publishers. So how do you prepare for that? First, like I said, have a manuscript ready. If you've got a manuscript ready and you need it reviewed for your next steps, or how I could even help you with those next steps of getting it ready for publication, that's what you need to do. The next thing you need to do would be write a book proposal. A book proposal is the document that you submit to the agent, or if you are pursuing smaller publishing houses because you have connections with people, or you've pursued these connections through writing conferences and trade conferences, then you're ready to submit to them and pitch your idea. So the book proposal is that package, if you will, that is put together to present your book to agents. And yes, that does cost a fee. Okay. So then once you get the book proposal completed and you submit it to the agent and the agent says, okay, I'll work with you, we're going to shop this around, then the agent's job is to pitch this to different publishers. You've got to understand the pool out there is deep, and the right agents with the right connections can secure you the best deal. So if you're a first-time writer, you're going to have to prepare yourself for the fact that you may be turned down because you are a first-time writer. Sometimes authors self-publish their first book, so they have something to submit to an agent so that it could be shopped around with the book proposal. Okay. And then let's say you do find a publisher and they make you an offer. Please do not assume that you can now quit your job because you're going to get signed for, several $100,000 of a book deal. Those deals do happen, but those deals happen with people who already have huge established platforms, followings. They know they're guaranteed X amount of dollars in sales because of who this person is. Okay. So publishers will make deals based on the pitch. They may say they'll try your book for, 6 months. And that means you getting no advance. It's just the fact that you get a publisher's name on the back of your book. Okay. So the next thing is do you have an existing audience that will buy your book? You've got to think about building. Who is your audience for your book? Is it children's literature? Are you working with schools and libraries and learning all you can about young adult literature in that 8 to 12 maybe group, and research that audience, find out where those people are and how you can make connections and inroads to those places so you can build an audience of people who will follow you and who know who you are as a writer. So maybe you start in a writing group and you get involved and you build a little circle of friends, and then you get on your social media platforms and you start sharing with your followers what you're doing, what you're creating, how they can support you. That's all part of that process. Because if you have an existing audience, that appeals to a publisher. Now, here's some things you have to remember with traditional publishing. If you sign a contract with them, you basically give them control over your intellectual property. In other words, you trust them with your intellectual property. You may own the copyright, but they own the publishing, licensing on your work. So it may be your work, but you can't publish it because they determine that. They will say whether you can or you can't. So you have to be careful. Are these trusted relationships? Are these publishing houses credible where you can trust them with your intellectual property? Because that can cause some problems. That can cause some problems. One of my my business mentor, John Acuff, who you've heard me talk about before, he experienced this with the book Start. He wrote that while he was working at Dave Ramsey Productions. Had the deal on publishing that book. So John really can't do anything with that book because that doesn't belong to him. That is Ramsey production. So you have to be very careful with who you give your work to, right? And make sure that you retain control of your own intellectual property. That's really huge. They own the book and they own the content, meaning that you may write the story and get it to where you want it, but they will look at it and have it amended to fit their publishing style and their their readers. So they can make changes and they don't have to ask you whether they can make the changes. They will make those changes because that will make the book marketable to their people. Publishers are publishers, not marketers. They will publish your book, but they're not going to market your book. And again, this gets back to you building a solid audience, right? A group of consistent followers who you are engaging with so that you can market to them when your book drops. Because publishers are not going to do that for you. You're going to have to do your own. So even if you're traditionally published, you still have to do your own marketing. And this is when the ideas of self-publishing really took off because publishers are not going to do that. So let's talk a little bit about self-publishing, okay? Good morning, Kelly. Good morning. Good to see you here. Let's talk a little bit about self-publishing. This has been a very popular trend in the last 10 years easily, because as digital technology advanced and there were other ways of publishing your work besides getting it published in a print magazine or having it published in a book, you could now have a blog. You could now have, a newsletter that goes out to people that you've been emailing simply because you all went to church together, or you grew up together, or you went to college and high school with each other, right? So we have these ways of building these great nets of people who we've had relationship with, and we can make that connection. And so that's a given audience. I remember John saying one time in a conference, he said, look at the amount of followers you have. And at the time when I saw him at a conference, I think I had 365 on Twitter, which I don't even use anymore. And he said, now I want you to imagine you standing in front of 365 people. All of a sudden, that was a game changer. That shifted my thinking enough to realize, and he said, if you are faithful and consistent with this group of people, it will grow. And I've watched John do that with his own work, with his speaking, with his books. So, think about that and the connections you have. And even if you start small, if you're an author right now and you have a book idea and you want to get that, use your existing social media platform and just shift it a little and start talking about this new project that you're doing and start building that momentum. People will start getting excited with you about the book that you're going to write. Okay. So self-publishing gives you a lot of options. First and foremost, you own all of it. You own all of it. I remember an artist, you might know who she is. Her name is Imogen Heap. Probably about, I would say, 15 years ago, maybe. She came onto the scene. She became very popular very quickly and established herself in the music world. I mean, all because of a song she wrote that was part of a television show. And the song um, was the ending scene of a season finale of a TV show that was wildly popular. And people the next day wanted to know who is that? Who is that artist? Who wrote that song? Because and it just, now the thing is she only distributed her music through her website. That was the only place you could get it. It wasn't on, like, we didn't have Spotify yet, and it wasn't on all of these places. I think she put it like on MySpace or something, right? But because it was her own music and she released it through her own way, when it blew up, she owned all the rights. She got all the royalties. There was no record company involved in getting her published. So if you are familiar with Imogen Heap, go back and read her biography, read her story of how she started. And now she's involved in the music world from the technology side and creating all these new ways of creating sounds and record. It's just fascinating to watch her story. But because she owned all the rights to her work, that gave her the resources that she needed to be able to move up to the next level as an artist, which I think is incredible. And that can be you. When you self-publish, it is fully customizable. If you have a book you put out, you want to change the cover, or if you want to release it in a different form, or you want to maybe make an audio book of something that you've done, or you want to start creating a video, channel that kind of correlates with your book, right? Any different ways that you can make your work appealing to an audience, fully customizable, because you own all the rights to it. Okay. Now this also means that you have control over all your marketing. And again, I'm going to get back to, creating that momentum with the people that you're connected with and building that audience and doing different things. Maybe get on TikTok, maybe get on Instagram a little more, do some things to really start connecting with the people that follow you. And that's going to be where your marketing sources are coming from. You have complete creative control. So if you had a book that became popular and somebody wanted to come to you and do a stage play version of it, or they wanted to shoot a little documentary about it, anything like that, you have complete creative control. The thing that comes to mind for me is, do you remember the Four Seasons Total Landscaping people? Through no fault of their own, but see, they took hold of that, and and it was all their own. They owned it, right? So any royalties, any news, anything that was created that came out of that, they totally owned. They even did a documentary about their whole story and how that happened. They have complete creative control over all of that content. So what I appreciate about people creating content and putting it on TikTok and Instagram and making reels and doing all the things that we can do now, remember that's your work. So make sure that you save it. People have lost their accounts on Facebook and Instagram, and they've lost all of their content. So make sure that you have a way of securing your creative control. Don't lose all of your work. Think about ways of how you want to archive that, save it, put it together, create it, publish it, right? It's your creative work. So you want to make sure that you know, preserve it, right? Because you never know what can happen. Never know. Like I said, people will find you, they'll read it, they'll connect with it. Word of mouth marketing is the same. And again, this gets back to the people that you are connected with, like you are to me when we sit and have coffee. So, a couple of books. As I've mentioned before, we are going through this wonderful book. It's called Saving Grace. The tagline is Speak Your Truth, Stay Centered, and Learn to Coexist with People Who Drive You Nuts. Great way to start off the year, learning how to center and balance ourselves in the midst of so much that's going on around us. And by the way, how are you doing on your New Year's resolutions? This is about that time of January where we forget what we were talking about at the beginning of the year, how we were so gung-ho, we were so ready, we're just, woohoo, this is gonna be, some of us are rolling into the new year like, okay, can we just stop? So yes, book club. We've been reading Kirsten's book about how to walk in grace. What does grace mean? What does it not mean? And ways that we can incorporate more grace in our life. So if you are interested in the book club, we're discussing this one this month, and you still have time. If you want to pick this book up and read it, our next discussion is going to happen on February the 1st. February the 1st, guys, because today is the 22nd of January. And we're just plowing right along. So there's still time for you to pick up this book and join our book discussion. And I'm letting you know now because I'm so excited about this one. But we are going to get into Brene Brown's new book called Atlas of the Heart, where she's going to take us through 87 emotions and experiences that define what it means to be human. Are you ready to be all emotional in February? Are you already feeling emotional? Or are you doing okay? Right? And we're going to learn more about our heart, the things that make us human beings, the grace that comes with being a human being. So we're going to go from this book right into this book. And I'm really excited because she's going to break down ways and give us tools and things that we can bring into our lives that will help us understand the emotions that we go through and interacting with other people. How can we best interact with others, especially after having such a brutal last couple of years with the pandemic, right? How you doing? You doing okay? I hope you're doing okay. I'm doing okay. It's cold here, but my hair's grown back. Check it out, guys. Let's do a hair check here, right? Hair's growing back in. Life is good. And I'm busy helping people with their words, working on 2 book projects right now. Got another one in the chute to start here in February. Really excited to be getting into children's literature. So that's something new for me. But if you're interested in getting your story shaped up, maybe you want to polish it up, start a blog, think about building an audience for a book that you might want to publish in the year coming, right? Think about different ways that you want to publish your work. There's so many options out there, and it's great to have options. It can be overwhelming when you have too many options. So let's talk about some stories that have happened in your world. What's been going on in your side of the world? Good morning, Tiffany. Good to see you. It's been a full day already. I hear you, friend. I hear you. And we're blessed to have more ahead of us, right? Well, here in the Dallas area, we've had some losses this week, guys. Of course, all the news is abuzz with Meatloaf, who was a Dallas native, got his start right here in the Dallas area. But we lost him. We also lost comedian Louis Anderson. Um, and it's sad when we see these people, you know, leaving us. But what an incredible catalog of work each person has contributed to our world, right? And to the entertainment world. Here locally in the Dallas area, also, we lost a radio personality and someone that I had the honor of working with back in the days of radio here in Dallas in the 80s and 90s. So we lost John Dillon this week. His spectacular and just precious wife, Nancy, has stood by his side for these last 10 years. And so he passed away, leaving behind his family and his sons and his grandchildren, but left us with such a legacy and a memory that we will treasure as his friends. Those of us here in the Dallas area who knew him, those of us who worked with him, the people here who loved and listened to him for well over 3 decades. And I had a lunch with a friend from those radio days this week, and she's the one who brought me this new edition of my mug. And I just thought, look at that. Beautiful. Rock on, right? Such a beautiful mug. It has it on both sides. But I mean, with the people that we've lost here this last week, and we seem to have lost so far this month in January, it's so important that we share our stories. It's so important that we share our work with each other. So if you're interested in doing that, drop me a note. You can leave me a comment. You can click the button on this video and contact me. If you want to reach me directly, you can go right to my website. Right here, you can go to reneeharden.com/contact. Drop me a note. Let me know how I can help you. We can, have a 30-minute coffee conversation privately. We can talk about maybe, what some of your needs are, what kind of work you want to publish, what you're thinking about writing, or maybe you have something prepared that you want to get ready for sending to an agent who can start shopping your work. Either way, let me know how I can help you with that. But more importantly, don't forget to read good books. Good books. They're important. Try to read at least one a month. And that's why we do the book club, right? So again, right here at my contact info, you can let me know if you'd like to join the book club as well. Our next meeting will be February the 1st. And on this broadcast, I'll be back here next week. We're going to continue talking about how you can publish your work, how you can get your book out there to the rest of the world, and the best outlet for you, the best options for you. Because again, you share your stories, you're making a difference in someone's world. And you've made a difference just sharing coffee with me. So thanks a bunch for being here. To all of you who are here live, thanks so much for being here, for commenting. Hey, Azariah, good to see you. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Remember to share your awesome. Remember to share your stories. When you connect with someone else, you never know the difference you can make in their life. And you've already made a difference in mine just by having coffee with me. All right, guys, well, get out there and have a great rest of your weekend. I'll be back here next week, 9 o'clock Central Time, where it's going to be, the end of the month, and I will be in Nashville, Tennessee. So I can't wait to share with you live what's going on in Nashville. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. More importantly,